Alrighty, moving on. So I'll start with the agenda. So we've done the introduction. So a general update. We've got some points here. I'll just pass them on so we can get on the same page. So of course, our primary goal at the moment is a test net in March. So all the F2.0 clients are collectively working together to try and connect to each other in Q1 2019 was the date it was set. So I guess that means the end of March. So at the moment, our focus is on the beacon chain. We have sort of four main tasks we're focusing on. That's implementing the spec. We're looking to do the network implementation, that is libp2p gossip sub. We're going to be looking at syncing, which is after we've got libp2p up, then we can actually start trying to sync blocks over the network. We can sort of use a test harness until then. And then also the RPC, so how external services and consumers can connect to the client and use it. We've got a validator client implementation that's going to need to be a separate binary. I think we're going to start that in late January, early February. The dependency for that is obviously the spec implementation and the RPC on the beacon chain. So over the past few weeks, we've been working to kind of isolate those four main areas so they can be worked on in parallel. So I've been working on building the chain structure, which is the interface between the spec and the RPC and syncing. So I've got PR number 129, should bring us a lot closer to this. That'll get merged in the next couple of days. In terms of resourcing for the project, so we've been running lean over the past couple of months due to a few factors. We've had some security assignments at SIGP that needed attention. We've also been trying to kind of run a little bit lightly to reduce duplicate work as the spec changes. This means we haven't been burning runway, which is good for the project in the long run. However, it is time for us to start scaling up now and really applying time to it. And we've really seen that starting to happen this year. So we have the equivalent of another 2 times full-time devs at the moment this year. And we're looking to apply 1 or 2 more as we go. The hiring process is underway. Hey, Luke, would you mind muting your microphone, please?
Yep.
Thank you. So crunch time for the project it's not here yet. We're definitely working. We're working hard, but I think crunch time we're probably going to see it February and definitely in March. So I guess one of my main goals is to try and have all our ducks in a row so we're ready to go at crunch time. In terms of who's doing what, myself at the moment, I'm working on project management. I'm going to start focusing on RPC in the next, like later this week, plus kind of, whatever comes up. Adrian's been working on libp2p. He'll give a bit of an update about that later. And I imagine he'll jump onto syncing after he's done libp2p. Alex has been going through the spec. So Justin Drake is really happy with his bug finding stuff. So he's doing good at that, and he's going to start implementing some helpers. Luke, who just joined a bit late, maybe I'll get him to do an introduction after this, is working on some infrastructure at the moment. We're going to set up a big beefy, it's like we've got like a 12-core server or something here, 16-core, I forget, that we're going to use for CI. Which would be really fun. We can do fuzzing and lots of resource-intensive stuff that we can't do on Travis CI free version. And then we've also got Mehdi, who couldn't make it today. Mehdi is a co-founder of Sigma Prime. He's a security engineer. He's grokking the spec at the moment. He's going to become a bit more engaged later once we have something for him to break. We've got some external contributors. They're on this call too. We've got Grant, Michael, and Stan. They've been the biggest contributors so far. It's been really exciting to have them. Thank you, guys. If anyone else here is keen to contribute, just go through the issues, try and find an issue. There's a good first issue tags. If you can't find an issue, feel free to reach out and get her, or if you'd like to do it privately, you can contact myself or Adrian. All of those work for us. So that's most of it for the general update. We'll leave some questions at the end, so maybe just make a note. So the next is a bit of a spec progress update. So Adrian and I had a bit of a quick call with Danny yesterday just to get the lay of the land. So in general, the specification has been changing significantly over the past months. However, we're getting a lot of signals from the Ethereum Foundation that the changes are going to be less frequent. So we're going to resume spec implementation, which is very exciting. Danny said we should start working on state transition helpers, which coincidentally is what Alex was already doing. So that's great. In terms of expected changes, I think the team is paying a lot of attention to what life's going to be like as a light client for the Beacon chain. So they're attempting to implement a new shuffling algorithm. They're going to be doing a lot of bug fixes. And I suspect there's going to be some attack mitigation stuff coming through as people start getting a bit more sophisticated about ways to break it. So I think that's about it from a spec progress update from me. Maybe just because Luke jumped in, he's a bit of a core member, so we can just get Luke to do just a quick introduction before we move on to Age's stuff.
Sure. Hi guys. I'm Luke. I do computer stuff, and I'm keen to see. I'm trying to roll out some of the DevOps things at the moment, like CI, and get this fuzzing stuff working. Yep, and also keen to biddle. Anything else I should mention, Paul?
Luke's got a background as a security engineer, I guess, at a big startup in Australia. And he's also a lecturer at the University of Sydney.
Yep. Yeah, that's the other things I do. Thanks, Paul.
No worries, man. So maybe I'll pass it on to Age to do some of the P2P stuff.
Sorry, could I just jump in with a quick question?
Of course.
Yep. You mentioned like looking for good first issues. Prior to that, is it worthwhile going through the ETH 2.0 specifications, or like it's obviously a bit beefy, or is it like, what would you recommend between that blend of like finding an issue and reading something? Is there like some preliminary reading that you'd recommend rather than read the whole spec?
We have in our docs section, we have actually, I think it's in the main README at the moment. And there's a PR to move it into the docs section. We have a bit of a brief introduction to Serenity. It's pretty high level, so it might be a good place to start if you have no idea. But apart from that, I would recommend just having a look through the spec before starting on Lighthouse. Understanding it in its entirety is a big job, so feel like I would suggest the kind of read where you go through and you kind of like stub out your understanding of some things, but just get a general larger view picture of it. I would recommend that.
Cool. Thanks, Paul.
No worries. Anything else before I pass on to Age?
Okay. Hey guys. So yeah, I'll just give a quick update of roughly what I've been recently looking at in the last little stretch. I've been absent from the channels and a lot of the main repos in the last few times because I've been dealing with some company stuff. So hopefully you'll see me a little bit more around in the next stretch, seeing as we've managed to palm a lot of that stuff off. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up in any of the Git or any of the repos. But anyway, so recently I've been playing around in an entirely different repository, which is why you probably haven't seen me around, which is the libp2p repository. So I'm not sure how much everyone knows about what we're targeting or what we're trying to do, but the current, I guess, trend that the ETH clients are going to use is libp2p, which is essentially a networking stack specifically designed for decentralized applications, I guess. And in particular, there's one protocol that they want to use in order to communicate between the nodes in these clients, which is like a publish subscribe protocol, PubSub for short. Particularly, it's called Gossip Sub. Essentially, it allows nodes to communicate kind of efficiently without having a lot of duplication across the network. So, for those people that haven't heard of any of this stuff before, it's the reason it's called Gossip Sub is kind of like you get one node. The node has a list of peers that it's connected to, and it efficiently, if it receives a message or a block, you can think about it as a block. It sends it off to all the nodes that it currently knows about.
So
and then that
a
node,
quick question:
yeah.
How is that How does it differ from the flood sub mechanism that's already implemented in libp2p for Rust at least?
Yeah. So flood sub is kind of like a superset. So it's pretty much just in how it handles its peers, its connected peers. So with flood sub, it's not very elegant in the sense that if I get a message in one, I just send it to pretty much all the nodes that I currently have. In Gossip Sub, they have a little bit more kind of logic, I guess, in terms of which nodes to pass it on to. The idea is to minimize the amount of messages that are being sent and duplication. So they have like essentially an overlay mesh network of nodes as opposed to just, these are all the ones I'm connected to, I'm just going to send it to all of them, which is essentially.
So there's supposed to be like graph theory, cycle detection, this sort of stuff. Like.
Yeah, it's not. I think that they're also planning on doing another upgrade on top of Gossip Sub, but essentially it's just about dealing with a smarter way of sending the messages, not just flooding the entire network with messages, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, there's I can link. Yeah, we can have a chat on the Gitter. There's some links to the specs and there's a Go implementation about exactly how that works.
Okay.
Essentially, it's just a little bit more efficient in the transferring of messages.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Cool. So the current state of things at the moment is that a lot of the other clients, some of the ones like JavaScript and like NEM, there's obviously not a native libp2p implementation for those guys to use for the networking backend. So what the libp2p guys have done is created a daemon, which you can run independently, and then you can interact with that daemon. That daemon has all of the things that we need implemented, but there is currently an ongoing effort in Rust to build it out natively in Rust. The guys that are working on Rust are the parity, mainly are the parity guys that are working on Substrate. They are doing a great job in moving Rust along, but they've said that they're not going to be building the Gossip Sub protocol. So our idea was, while the spec was quite dynamic, is to go figure out exactly what they're doing in the Rust implementation and then just implement Gossip Sub for us so that we can have a native implementation built into ours as opposed to running, a separate daemon. So the current state is that there's a few guys that are currently trying to do a PR for Gossip Sub in the Rust libp2p. I'm not sure about whether they're getting that ready or not. I've been talking to the libp2p guys and they're still asking that they want help and that if we have the bandwidth to actually build this protocol onto it. So now that I have the time to dedicate directly to this is what I'm going to be focusing on. So I'll be off in another repo in libp2p building this protocol. Once it's built, we can just import the crate into ours, and then we need to kind of implement the networking infrastructure and syncing protocols and that kind of thing. So if anybody's interested in this kind of Rust stuff, the guy that's actually doing the Rust libp2p, his name's Pierre, and it's some pretty interesting Rust. So if anyone's interested in that kind of stuff, then let me know and we can work together on that. But that's essentially, so in terms of an update, I've got pretty much just been getting my head around the implementation, building some small things, and should hopefully in the next, couple of weeks be actually building some of this stuff. Cool.
Any questions from Age until we move on to talking about the future meeting frequency of this meeting?
Maybe, is there any current issues which are blocked by the lack of Gossip Sub within libp2p?
Yeah, so I think if there is anything blocked, we can probably either stub it or we can implement the daemon. So maybe that's probably a more lengthy discussion if we want to just in the intermediate stage just use the daemon for that.
Okay.
There's not that I know of, because I think we've been actively choosing areas that don't require this.
Yeah, I guess the larger task of syncing with other nodes via the network is blocked on that. But there's no actual issues at the moment that are blocked. But like Adrian said, there's a daemon that's written in Go, I think, that we can run. So if we can't get Rust up in time, I think we will. But if we can't, there's a Go daemon that we can run as a separate process and just, bind into to talk to the network. libp have been pushing that a bit, and it's a pretty cool thing apparently. I think NIM are using it, and I maybe I'm implementation too.
Yeah, and the other thing is that if there is something, if somebody wants to start working on the syncing and doing the networking side, we can just use flood sub straight away. Once gossip sub's ready, that's a trivial, like maybe 3-line modification to upgrade from flood sub to gossip sub.
Oh yeah, they're linked by that transport trait or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you have this upgrade trait. So you start with the transport, and you add whatever features you want. So you upgrade a transport to use flood sub, and then instead of using flood sub, you upgrade to gossip sub.
Oh, that's neat. I hope it comes in handy.
Yeah, the whole point of libp2p is to be modular, so that you can you pick whatever features you want. If you want TCP, UDP, whether you want security over it, they have some forms of security, and then they have different kinds of transport layers, as well as the behaviors and gossip sub on top of the transport things. The whole thing's it's designed to be modular, which is really good. So you can just add and remove things.
Yeah, which makes for some pretty interesting Rust.
Yeah, it's all asynchronous, interesting, bleeding edge Rust. Like the thing won't compile unless you're on bleeding edge, like the Rust compiler.
Cool. Anything else on libp2p? Cool. I'll move on. So I wanted to talk about this meeting and how it goes into the future. So I guess I'll put forward my proposition and then we can chat about it. So my proposition is that we host this call every 2 weeks to give a detailed update, and then each week the team members who are quite active can drop in like a few line update on what they've been doing that week. Because I think this meeting is maybe a little too heavy to have every week, but it would be nice each week to have an idea of what the team members are up to. So how does everyone feel about that? Alex, I'm pretty keen to hear your input on that one too.
Just on the frequency of this call, or because if we want to do like, sort of just syncing, we can do that on the Gitter channel.
Yeah, I think like the syncing of like once a week kind of just sync of what each person did the last week, what they're going to do this week. I think it'd be like Gitter would be good. What do you think about 2 weeks for this call? Do you think that's too short, too frequent?
We could start and see where it goes.
Yeah, sounds good to me. Maybe we can try and shift it around a little bit so that someone's, because we managed to pick like each third of the globe, so there's no ideal time zone. So maybe we can
I think that's a good idea. Just to
God, I miss Pangea, the continent, that's the whole piece,
Yeah, the F2 implemented call is 1 a.m. here for us, so that's pretty fun.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah. We got nice beaches though, so I guess that's the trade-off. I guess we'll go ahead with the 2 week frequency for this. Any objections? Raise them now, or I'll sort of push on. Pushing on. So the last thing I have here on the agenda is something that Alex and I have talked a little bit about, and I know Stan, you've kind of spoken about this too, and that is redefining the direction of the beacon state directory we have at the moment. So presently, it's a bit of a mismatch. It's kind of like being cut and pasted as the spec changes. But it would be nice to try and target a direction for it. So one of the biggest changes that I've made in PR129 is I moved the chain structure from the beacon chain into the Lighthouse directory. And my reasoning for that is that it's a component that is trying to combine the database, stateful, networking components of Lighthouse with the functional requirements of the spec. So the idea is that it's not really a specification piece. It's more something that Lighthouse has come up with to manage the spec. So that was my idea of why it should be in the Lighthouse directory. So my present liking is to turn the beacon state directory into a workspace, maybe call it F2 or something, and have it contain a bunch of crates that do Ethereum Serenity stuff. So we'll serialize, validate a delegation and an assignment, stuff like this, and just all these sorts of bits that are going to be useful to other people. So what I'd like to get from that crate is one, that it is divisible enough so that it can, the validator client can implement parts of it without implementing the whole thing or importing the whole thing. But obviously we want to try and stay away from those ridiculous crates that I put in there once that had like 4 lines of code in it. So we'll try and avoid that. Sorry, Stan. And I think Alex raised the point. Alex raised the point that he would like that crate to be stateless. So it's it's just a library basically. And I support that too as much as we can. It's going to be a little bit tricky, I guess, for some block processing stuff. But I guess we can kind of, if we do have to read state, maybe we can just send closures to it that read the state or something like that. What are some thoughts on that?
I support it.
It's cool with me too, but I just wanted to note that maybe I'm just a little biased because, well, the Ethereum spec is very much still in the making and it changes every day. And well, when making my remarks, I may have been a little bit too harsh given how hard it is to keep up, really.
Oh yeah, sure. No worries. I feel like I might have lost you there. Anyone else? Oh.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, got you now.
Yeah, well, I was just saying that. Well, I think I was a little bit too harsh on you guys on the code you have because, well, I don't think I'd keep up with the pace myself any better.
Okay, alright, yeah, cool. Oh, thanks for that. Good to know. Yeah, it's funny when you first rock up to it, you're like, oh, hey, the spec, and then you spend a little bit of time around it, and you realize it's a 4-dimensional object.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess we can start looking at doing that with the spec. So I'll merge in my PR129, and then I'll make an issue so that we can maybe rename the crate to F2 or something like that. Just because I think beacon chain is a bit confusing, especially because the Lighthouse is going to need to have a beacon chain struct. So I'll make an issue to rename it and we can have a chat about it, and then make a PR and make it happen. So I think that's all I have on the agenda here. Is there anything anyone would like to ask or start talking about?
Well, personally, I was just looking for an issue where I could just, get in there and roughly know what I have to do and just do it,
Yeah, sure. If you're keen for that, I'll think up something and I'll have something to you within 24 hours.
That would be great.
Yeah. So in general, do you think we should be making lots of like I'll help do this to make a lot of good first issues. It seems like there's a few people that are chasing places to start and where they just get their hands dirty.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
We've got a few issues in there. If you want to have a look at the issues, there's quite a lot of issues in there at the moment. Yeah, but if you think up something that's a good first issue, go for it.
Maybe we should aim to have at least, maybe 5 issues always tagged as good first issues for people.
Yeah, for sure. I reckon we would be around that at the moment. I think that's a very good idea. We have 6.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. Well, I think that's it. We can. I'll start figuring out a time for the next meeting, and then push it out to you guys. Something that I forgot to mention, which is pretty poor form, was that I have been recording this. I intended to publish it. So I was going to chop out the introduction section just because it's not so super useful. But since I didn't tell you that, if you have a problem with that, you're more than welcome to let me know, and I won't publish this one, or I'll cut you out of it or something. So you can either speak now, or you can contact me privately if that's going to be a problem. Apologies. Alrighty, that's call it a wrap. Thanks everyone for coming. Thanks for all your support on the project. We're looking forward to delivering testnet.
Cool. Thanks.
Cool. See you guys.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Cool.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
See you.